Hi, this is Remembering the Past, the show where we talk about people who've died recently who've had a profound effect on our history, our society, or our culture. By way of introduction of our first subject tonight, we have this.
The flag is up, and they're off.
That was the great Chicago racetrack announcer Phil Georgeff, who died recently at the age of 85. For over 35 years, he called thoroughbred races and harness races in Chicago. He was known as the voice of Chicago racing. Born on the West Side, he went to Austin High School, and then he was a graduate of the Medill School of Journalism. And I don't believe there was a better racetrack announcer in the United States. His characteristic call was, "And here they come, spinning out of the turn, entering the stretch." But don't take it from me, listen for yourself. Here he is in 1973 with the home call of the Arlington Invitational, featuring one of the great racehorses of all time, Secretariat. And you certainly don't have to be a racetrack devotee to enjoy this.
Here they come, spinning out of the turn. Secretariat now by 5 lengths. Michael in second, our native third. They're coming to the 8th hole. Secretariat by 5 lengths. They pass the 8th hole of the mile, 135. Secretariat all by himself. America's super horse. Juan Cook on it. 50 yards to come. Secretariat by 7. Secretariat 8 lengths. And Michael, our native is third.
Phil Georgeff, one of the greats. We're going to move on now to our feature tonight, Gwen Ifill, who died recently at the age of 61. Gwen Ifill was the Peabody Award-winning journalist, television newscaster, and author. And in 1999, she became the first African-American woman to host a major political television show with Washington Week in Review. I should add at this point that Washington Week in Review took over for the McLaughlin Report. We just did the John McLaughlin podcast a couple of months back, so I'd be a little nervous taking over that time slot now. Anyway, Gwen Ifill was a nice African-American girl born in Queens, went to Simmons College, and here is ABC News on the career of Gwen Ifill.
Finally tonight, we pay tribute to longtime journalist Gwen Ifill. She broke barriers and earned enormous respect along the way. We learned today she has died at 61.
Good evening, I'm Judy Woodruff.
And I'm Gwen Ifill.
Gwen Ifill was part of the first female anchor team on the evening news on PBS. She started with Judy Woodruff 3 years ago, and it was just this year they co-moderated one of the debates. Born in New York City in 1955, Gwen was a minister's daughter. She studied communications at Simmons College and interned at the Boston Herald-American. She was the only African-American woman there, and she talked about it on the PBS series Makers.
I call myself the lonely only because there were no other black women really in that situation at that time. But that didn't stop me. I knew there were things to do.
In 2004, Ifill became the first African-American woman to moderate a vice presidential debate.
Vice President Cheney, there have been new developments in Iraq.
4 years later, Gwen Ifill would return again.
If you want a breakthrough, if you want to have attention paid, if you want to accomplish your goals and your dreams, you've got to be willing to work hard. What's the point otherwise? People said a lot to me about their daughters. That's the thing that really struck me the most. I would say, yeah, it's just a job. I just do this. And they would say, yes, but my daughter doesn't ever see anyone like herself on the air. People have that pride that makes you get up every day and say, I got to keep doing this.
Well, by all accounts, Gwen Ifill was a nice person, certainly very smart, and here she talks about the things that motivated her to go into political reporting.
I'm one of the last holdouts who think conventions kind of matter. I like a room full of people who are enthusiastic about the process. I think it's important that we hear from the future leaders of our party. We watch conventions kind of for recreation. Once again, this was an extension of the fact that my parents thought that what happened in American politics and government mattered. So, and also keep in mind that when we were growing up and watching conventions, we didn't know how they were going to end. They were actually kind of dramatic. Mm-hmm. And imagine watching a convention where Barbara Jordan gets up and speaks. Mm. And you're a little black girl at home who sees nothing like this on television. It blows your mind. Where else was I going to see that voice, hear that voice? And so as a result, whenever I go through the Austin airport, I stop and pat her a little bit. There's a wonderful bronze sculpture of her in baggage claim at the Austin airport. And I just greet her every time because she was amazing. And Shirley Chisholm. I mean, there were women, black women who were out there speaking their truth in an environment where it wasn't generally welcome.
As I listen to you talk about this, though, I'm imagining children watching television now and seeing you.
Okay. She's going to make me a little verklempt here. You know, when I was a little girl, there was a woman named Melba Tolliver who was on the news, and she had a big afro. And I just was transfixed by this idea. Didn't make me want to be in television as much as it made me want to tell the story. And every now and then I am not particularly interested in, I just get caught up in whatever the day's work is. And invariably somebody will come up to me and tell me the story of their little girl. And it always stops me in my tracks. Because as long as I remember that there's someone on the other side of the piece of equipment, the camera, who's watching me with expectation, and it can shape what they do next, I have to take what I do seriously every single day.
You notice how she snuck in that verklempt in there? You gotta like that. She gets major points for that. Well, we're gonna miss Gwen Ifill, but like I said, I'd be careful. I was the next person taking over that Friday evening PBS time slot. It might wind up as a feature on this program one of these days. Well, we're gonna move into sports now with Gardnar Mulloy, who died recently at 102. Gardnar Mulloy was one of the great American tennis players of the mid-20th century. He was the #1 ranked American tennis player in 1952, won the doubles at Wimbledon in 1957, and before there was John McEnroe, there was Gardnar Mulloy. He used to berate the officials during the matches, although he always had respect for his opponents. He was one of the top players in the world for almost 4 decades. Sports Illustrated once said of him, there have been better tennis players than Gardnar Mulloy, but no man has ever played better longer. He came from Miami, and here is a Dade County Public School Alumni Hall of Fame presentation on Gardnar Mulloy.
It's a love match spanning a century. A boy, a ball, a racket, and a court that Dad built in their backyard on the Miami River. The boy, Gardnar Putnam Mulloy, born November 22, 1913 in Washington, D.C. The Mulloys soon moved south to Dade County, 1932, and headed to the University of Miami, where President Bowman Foster Ashe okayed a tennis team at Gar's prodding, swapping Mulloy's football scholarship for tennis and naming him coach. Gar leading the team to the 1936 national title, later recruiting a bow-legged Ecuadorian and future pro champion named Pancho Segura to the squad. Gardnar then hit the pro circuit, wedding his college sweetheart Madeline Cheney between tournaments, before returning for law school, though he would never practice. His tennis came first, Mulloy hitting the big time when suddenly everything changed for him and the world. He joined the Navy, eager to head out to sea, but was made a tennis teacher instead. With trademark tenacity, he earned his lieutenant's stripes and a Medal of Commendation. He returned home to his twin loves, family, and tennis, working hard to get his game and career back, ranking 6th in the world just 2 years later and 1st in the nation 5 years after that, delighting fans with his volleys, service returns, and well-placed smashes, and his screen idol looks, sharp wit, and easy charm. But it was in doubles that he secured his legend, competing in 14 Grand Slam finals and winning 5, including 4 U.S. national titles with longtime partner Bill Talbot, and winning Wimbledon with Budge Patty, accepting the cup at the ripe old age of 43 from a young Queen Elizabeth II, the oldest man to win the title then or since. A Davis Cup stalwart, Mulloy played on 3 winning U.S. teams, beating Australia for the cup each time. He'd compete in Grand Slam tournaments until age 57, turning fully to senior competition in 1976, 4 years after his induction into the International Tennis Hall of Fame. His greatest gift off the court? Pet Rescue, the no-kill shelter he founded in 1982 on 4 acres in Miami Gardens, mortgaging his spring garden home to do it. His greatest gift on the court, his advocacy for senior tennis, contributing the International Mulloy Cup for men over 80.
Well, we're going to move on now to Mose Allison, who died recently at the age of 89. He was a jazz pianist and songwriter, although actually he sort of defied all conventions. He was a white boy born in the Delta, Mississippi in Tippo, which is about halfway between Clarksdale and Greenwood, and he's often been dubbed the William Faulkner of jazz for his witty lyrics. He was the son of a stride jazz pianist and began playing at the age of 6. Later he took up the trumpet, and he absorbed both jazz and country blues, and when he arrived in New York City in 1956, he played piano with the cool jazzmen Al Cohn, Stan Getz, Jerry Mulligan, and Zoot Sims, so there was some bebop going on there. His style blended the simplicity of the blues with modernist harmonies, and he began to sing in 1957 when he formed his own trio. Because of his versatile musical ability, the lyrics he wrote, and his cynicism, He was sort of a hero to a lot of the rockers. Here he is doing one of my favorites, Seventh Son.
Everybody's talking about the seventh son. In the whole round world there is only one, and I'm the one. Yes, I'm the one. I'm the one they call the seventh son.
Here's an example of his clever lyrics. This one's called Your Mind is on Vacation and Your Mouth is Working Overtime. He did this one at Soundstage in Chicago in 1975. He used to come up to Chicago a lot for the blues and jazz scene here.
You sitting there acting right in my face. You coming on exactly like you own the place. You know if silence was golden, you couldn't raise a dime. Because your mind's on vacation and your mouth is working overtime.
I like this one. He pokes fun at his own image a little bit with just another middle-class white boy.
Never did a damn thing my way, I wouldn't die for love. The only time I take control is when push comes to shove. I'm not your hoochie coochie man, I'm not the seventh son. Just another middle class white boy out trying to have some fun.
This is a song that used to be his most requested song. It's called Parchment Farm. It's about a Mississippi penitentiary guy who never did no man no harm. Of course, at the end of the song, you find out that he shot his wife.
Well, I'm sitting over here on Parchment Farm. Well, I'm sitting over here on Parchment Farm. Well, I'm sitting over here on Parchment Farm, and I ain't never done no man no harm.
And here's Daltrey and Townsend and the boys in the Who live at Leeds doing a Mose Allison composition called Young Man's Blues.
Well, a young man ain't got nothing in the world these days. I said a young man ain't got nothing in the world these days. Well, you know, in the old days, when a young man was a strong man, all the people, they stepped back when a young man walked by.
Well, I'm going to close on that note. I want to thank my producer and IT genius, Sid Tepps, and tonight we're going to close with the no vacancy sign. According to the Chicago Tribune, the no vacancy sign, a beacon of hospitality and or disappointment, has greeted road-weary American travelers for generations. But just as paper maps and toll booth clerks increasingly seem quaint relics of the analog age, the classic no vacancy sign may soon become another victim of shifting travel habits and market forces. America's post-war boom in the 1950s and 60s, which led to an explosion of automotive travel and a corresponding spike in roadside lodging development, further solidified the no vacancy sign as a staple of the American travel culture. But a lot has changed since those days. We don't really have any customers who want that type of sign anymore, said Alex Loretano of the Loretano Sign Group, a leading sign manufacturer for the hospitality industry. At one point they were useful, but not anymore with online booking. So there you go. If they had online booking back in the day, Janet Leigh wouldn't have been killed in that shower in the Bates Motel. And to close, I'm going to close with a 1946 song by that great guitar picker Merle Travis called, what else? No Vacancy.
Along the road of life I roam, looking for a place to call my home. Not a fancy mansion or a bungalow for me, but everywhere I go I seem to find on the door the same old sign, and my heart beats slower when I read on the door, no vacancy.